Eventually, we came to a terrace overlook the garden. There was no signs of any guards nearby. The only thing surrounding the miner was an uncanny stillness. This will lead us straight into the west wing, just as well as we don't have any business in the rest of the miner tonight, said Miguel, gazing up at the dark building towering over us in the night. All right then, what are we waiting for? With that, Kid made to vault over the railing the terrace. Stop! Miguel hissed sharply. Remember what we're here for? Our main target is the vault and the frozen flame within it. We focus on this above all else. Your vengeance is a secondary concern, agreed? Glancing over her shoulder, Kid replied with a reluctant, Yeah, don't get your knickers in a twist. But if we happen to run into him, I'm gonna knock that Drago's block off, and neither you or anybody else is gonna stop me. I guess Kid was going to get her way, whether we liked it or not. Let's go, boys. The night is young. She cleared the railing, abruptly hopped and vanished into the miner. I glanced towards Miguel and nodded in silence. We followed Kid's lead, and we were inside Lord Link's lair. The darkness swallowed us whole. A corridor stretched off to the left and right. From the terrace, it seemed equally dark. Let's go right. Pressed on through the darkness, corridors, and twisted and turned. Stank like this way. Everything around us was still silent. Felt strangely like we were being watched, as countless eyes were staring. We continued creepingly, cautiously down the corridor. Kid moved proudly and stealthily like a cat, stalking its prey. And while in the shadows, Miguel followed, gliding swiftly. A short way along the corridor running from the right side, we found an ancient-looking door. On our right, Kid pressed her ear against the door, listening for any signs of life. Well, let's open doors. In we go. Kid still breathed in. The door wasn't locked. What's this room supposed to be? Place is a dump. Kidap poked her head in, takes a quick peek, and found nobody inside. A disappointment. The room was large and littered with a particular-looking machinery. All of it were covered in dust and had seemingly been dumped there haphazardly. Everything looked like it had been rusting for a very long time. The end of the room were completely dark, and it was impossible to tell how big it was, or even what the walls or the floor looked like. It seemed like the minor inhabitants had turned the old clock tower into a makeshift storage space some time ago. I stepped warily inside. Leave that alone, I looked over Miguel and saw Kid trying to pull something from the shadows. It was a huge sword that appeared very old indeed. You don't need that old bludgeon. It'll only get in the way. As much as an antique as it is, it won't fetch much on the market in that condition. Yeah? Reckon it might, you know? There's plenty of collectors who just love old bits of junk. Well, some old bits of junk. Pouting, Kid left the sword where she stood. At least she put it back down gently. It was then when we heard her voice in the shadows. What exactly are you doing here? I just jumped from my skin. Who's there? Kid and Miguel turned their face, ready for a fight. A wizened crone emerged from the shadows. She was hunched over and wore a hood draped over her face. I could tell glance, she wasn't just old, she was positively ancient. It's just some old bag. What you think you're doing sneaking up on us like that? Miguel, however, continued to give the woman a piercing stare. Oh, what an impish little thing you are. Here to visit a friend, perhaps? Not in the dead of night, as I expect. Crone narrowed her eyes. Let's get a closer look at you. Ah, yes. You must be here to get your revenge on Lynx. How did she... My heart jumped. She seemed to know exactly who we were. We're in trouble. What if she sounded the alarm? We have to give up the treasure and run for our lives. What do we do? So, what if we are? What is it to you that we are here to get our revenge on old Lynxy boy? You're gonna do something about it? You never change, do you? Her small frame shaking. A boldness of youth. Yes, that's the spirit. You know what? Kid looked at the crone, whose I had no... What the heck are you on about? Oh, it must have been 4 or 5 years ago. Yes, it was around the time the young thief stole into the miner, looking for a singed Lord Lynx's whiskers. She couldn't even been much older than 10, and now I think of it, shocked my gaze turned to Kid. A wet glint had appeared in the kid's eyes, but her glare was like ice. It certainly felt as if the temperature in the room had suddenly dropped below freezing. With a chuckle, the crone continued her story, pretending to not have noticed the change in the mood. She was an orphan, you know. Came at the Lynx to avenge a woman who loved her like her own daughter, but all the vengefulness in the world couldn't change the fact that she was only a little girl. She was no match for Lynx's men, and sadly they quickly captured her. Lynx is the kind of man one would fear to have an ally, never mind a foe. Had it not been the entirely timely assistance of a friend of hers, the girl would have certainly been executed. The way the people at the miner told it, the very shadows pitied the girl and rushed in to spirit her away. I wonder how much of the tale could be true. I have nothing but sympathy for those who know failure. Of course, you can't win all the time, and sometimes, against all odds, fate really can be foiled, and the clockwork of history set into disarray. No, the ones I have no patience for are those who do not recognize their failure, or who fell and chose to give up as a result. The crone looked up under her hood, stared Kid directly in the face and grinned. Kid's anger faded, giving way to a dumbfounded expression. If you wish to steal the jewel from Lynx, if you truly wish to triumph, you will have to go get a treasure of your own, Kid. For as long as you cling on to it, the hands of the clock will never move. They'll stay exactly where they came to rest all those years ago. Who are you? Oh, me? I'm just an old bag, like you said. I do apologize. I must have taken up a lot of your time with a lot of babbling. Oh, I leave you all in peace. But before I go, the crone turned face to me. You seem to be injured, young man. If you wish, I can take a look at your wounds. Alright, please do. The crone muttered a few words. A pale, gentle warmth began to surround my body, filled me with a strange warmth. Strike a light, that's no ordinary spell. Kid was impressed. I felt my wheels healing. Heard a nostalgic melody that soothed the wounds in my heart. Before I realized it, the crone was gone. Hey lady! Kid strained her eyes, scanning the darkness, but there was no one to be seen. Her eyes went unanswered. Who the bloody heck was that? Kid looked like she just woke up on the floor, the laughing pig after a few too many. And what did she mean about you having to let go of a treasure? Well, we won't find any answers here. Time to move on. Miguel brought us back down to earth. Motionlessly, as always, it almost seemed as if he thought nothing had happened at all. Yeah, I guess you're right. Kid walked quickly to the door and keen to move on. Hold it, you. Just as I was about to follow Kid out of the room, she jabbed me at the side of the elbow. You stingy little budger. Serge, why didn't you tell her to share some of that healing magic with the rest of us? Classic kid. And thus we will stop right there. We met an old lady, an old bag, and she was like, I'm gonna heal you. We went to an old room, learned some stuff about Kid. We'll see you in the next one.